Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on episode 4 of the Glide Growth Everything Sales podcast. Here we talk about everything from mindset to cold call openers to prospecting and everything you need to know for sales and sales development. And before we kick off the conversation, I wanted to give a thank you to our host and sponsor company, Glide Growth. If you are a founder-led sales team or young startup looking to grow your pipeline and you want to figure out ways to get more attention for your product and get more clients, then I suggest reaching out to them. If you have the opposite problem and you're winning too much and you have too much pipeline, then do not reach out to them. So thank you everyone for joining me. We have Yaalit and Aaron. If you want to do some quick intros for people who are joining us for the first time here.
Sure, absolutely. I'm Aaron Kaplan. Very recently, am the new SDR team lead at OneBeat,
Woo!
and happy to be here as always.
I'm Yaalit Pereira. I'm currently doing everything sales and customer success at a company called Peach. Also one of the founders of SDRs of Israel. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. I missed the last two, so got to make up for it.
We're happy to have you
Happy to have you
back, and
back. We missed you.
Thank
Was
you.
not the same.
I'm sure it wasn't.
it certainly wasn't, and we are happy to have you back. And Matt Firestone, leading sales, everything sales at Kojo, as well as co-founder of SDRs of Israel. So today we're going to be talking about mindset, sales mindset. Everyone knows that SDR, sales development, and even if you're in the AE world, there is a lot of rejection, a lot of up and downs. For every 100 messages and 100 people you reach out to, you might only get those couple, 1, 2, or 3 that actually respond in kind. And that does take a toll whether you want to admit it or not. And it usually will come out whether you want to admit it or not as well. So I thought we would start by going around and everyone can maybe give one short little tip in terms of how you deal with the constant rejection that sales development work tends to have. Aaron, we'll start with you and we'll work our way around to me. But someone who either started recently as an SDR or is a seasoned sales development expert, professional, how do you best deal with constant rejection day after day?
So there are a few ways to go about that. And like I appreciated that you mentioned that as a starting SDR and someone who's already more experienced, how do you react and deal with them differently? And the best way I think for both of them, and of course in practice they're each a little different, is to have fun with it. Is to have fun with it and gamify it, if you may. Like on the day to day, I personally count my no's because I'm very numbers driven. So for me, if I know that usually over the phone, 1 out of 100 calls I'll make will end up in a meeting, and I'll usually get a 10% answer rate. So that means I'll make 100 calls, 10 people will pick up, 9 won't be a fit, 1 will. So for each time I get a no, I just take it off the 9 and keep saying, okay, I'm getting closer to that yes. And be excited for it because if it's a no, I'm closer to the promised land. I'm closer to where I want to be. Sometimes it's harder to get those rejections. If you're working US hours based in Israel, you're working super late at night. And here's a fun story, which I don't recommend people do. It's not healthy. But I was towards the end of a month. I didn't hit my quota yet. I was cold calling the West Coast in the West Coast afternoon hours from Israel. It was like 1 a.m. and I wasn't getting anywhere. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna have fun with it. Every single time I get a no, every single time I'm hung up on, I'm taking a shot. All right? And believe it or not, I only had to take 2 shots before I booked the meeting. So it was fun. I enjoyed it, and just approach the no's with some level of enthusiasm because you know you're getting closer to the yes. For more experienced SDRs, I'd say look out for the rejection. Try to find it, and try to find it in a way of qualification. Right? The better you get at qualifying, and the more you understand that if someone isn't a good fit, I'd rather fail fast. I don't want to have someone who agrees to the meeting only to not no show the AE. It makes me look bad in the organization. Or even farther down the line, if you can foresee it, book someone on a call, move them move the change with them, have them become even an opportunity, only for you to then find out that you didn't do the right qualification back then and there were signs that they weren't qualified. Look for the rejection, stress test them a little bit. And then, rejection, instead of becoming your enemy, becomes a friend of yours and you can use it. So those are 2 pointers I would say for how to deal with rejection.
I would say, I mean, I only recently actually took this up, but just detaching from the outcome. And I never really clicked with that. I never vibed with that because I would just take it so deeply and seriously and whatnot. But lately, I've learned that, okay, you always want to go ahead and give quality, but quantity is what comes into the mix too. And if you can just detach and say, okay, what I get from this, I'm doing my maximum. I did what I needed to do. Now the results will just pour in and really kind of manifest it in a sense, which would sound silly to me if I was listening to this like 2 years ago. But now I really believe that. And I think that a lot of it goes with your energy and how you're just, if you're kind of chill and you're just letting people give you that objection if they want to, trying to overcome it, you're doing your part. Whatever's meant to be will be. And I really believe in Kol Tova. I know that people have goals to reach and all that, but what's meant to be will be. And it's just, in the end of the day, it's a volume game too, right? So for those 5 that say no, there'll be 5 that say yes. And I really agree with what Aaron said too, on just kind of trying to disqualify as much as possible. Like, I really like to go on the negative in general and just try to get people out of the loop, because again, right, that shows if they're really relevant or not. So yeah, I would say just detach from the outcome. If you're doing what you need to do, there's no point in stressing about it, because it's probably just going to make the results even worse. Whether if that's just by you giving yourself negative energy, or you just focusing on stressing instead of just doing more of what you're doing properly.
Okay, awesome. So I don't, people who are just listening to the audio, I'm shaking my head throughout both what Aaron and Yaalit are saying. I couldn't agree more. I'll touch first on detaching from the outcome. Yaalit, I have seen this personally, and everyone that I know that has done this or tries this in their outreach. When you detach and you don't focus on the outcome, suddenly you'll find that you'll have more success. I could not agree more. If you go into a cold calling session thinking, I need to hit 1 or 2 meetings, you're not going to do as well as if you go in with the mindset of, I need to have meaningful conversations. And suddenly you'll find that the prospect isn't going to smell that commission breath that you would have had if you went into the call looking for a meeting. Once your mindset is having a meaningful conversation, trying to have fun with it, it will inevitably come out in the tone of your voice, and it will come out in how the prospect perceives you. And you can try to fake it. And I certainly have been there where I tried to fake it, but in the back of my head, I'm super stressed about booking a meeting. And then you re-listen to those conversations and you'll see, wow, like I sound really stressed out. And at the time you thought you were cool, but you probably weren't so cool. And then to touch on what Aaron said regarding gamification, I think having fun with it and making it sort of a game is super important for that mindset. One thing that we started doing at my previous SDR role, and I've heard of other teams doing this, is having a folder or a dedicated Slack group where you actually share rejections. And suddenly when you have a bad rejection and you share it with other people, instead of saying like, wow, that guy like really got to me, it's like, guys, you got to hear how this guy got rid of me on the phone. And just having that shift in how you think about it totally changes how you finish your day. So instead of, wow, that hurt me personally, it's like, hey, you guys got to hear this. This was crazy. I got cursed out and it was nuts, you know? So I'll use that to lead into the next question is, can you think of a crazy rejection that you got that you could look back and laugh about? And it looks like Yaalit needs a second to think about it. Aaron maybe also. So I could start with a quick one that I had in mind while you guys think about it. But I would love to hear.
There are just so many.
There's too many to choose from.
There's
I'll
so
start
many
with,
fun rejections.
So I'll start with one. We'll pass it on to Aaron and then Yaalit as we did last time. So I was probably still in my first year of sales calls of being an SDR, and I was calling a huge bank in the United States, one of like the top like Bank of America level bank. And the number I got from my data provider was actually the person's wife. I didn't know that, so I called trying to reach Jim, and like Sally answered the phone. And right away, I knew this was not okay. And I said, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I was trying to actually reach Jim, but I didn't mean to bother you." And then she was like, "Oh, that's okay. Let me give you his number. Like, no problem at all." And this is like a super high up VP executive at one of these banks. So they gave me their number, and I felt a little, dirty about it, but like I didn't intend to like go around and like ask this guy's wife. So I called the original person, and he thinks that I intentionally did this, and he starts blasting me for going after like his family to get his information, which obviously was not what I intended to do. And then he took a step farther and he emails me. He found my email because I hadn't emailed him yet. He found my email and he says, "I just want to let you know I spoke with the whole executive team at this bank and they know not to do business with you guys going forward. So you could just stop." I actually cried. I'll admit it. Like I was so hurt that like this random person thought that I would go and do this like sleazy, slimy like sales move. I did cry. I went to my sales manager and I'm like, "I don't know what to do. Like this is like one of the top accounts we're trying to break into." And he just told me that he banned our company from doing business with him. Um, about 6 months later, they ended up becoming a client of ours. I'm kidding. I wish that is how it ended. That's not what that's not what happened.
Did you reply to
I
his
did
email?
reply. I replied to the email explaining what had happened, like saying like, "Hey, like I wasn't trying to go around and do this." It took me That took me some time to like laugh at. Like the whole situation was pretty wacky. But when
You
I
should
think
have
of
just
like
sent
the
a recording and just been like, "Your wife is handing out your information. Do
But
this to
but
me."
then but then he's gonna be like, "You recorded my wife?" That's even worse.
Yeah,
so
whatever. That's your job.
so
For
there's a
quality
concept in
assurance, we recorded your wife.
there's a concept in Judaism called shalom bayis, so peace in the home. And I don't want to start. Listen, if I don't hit quota, or if I do hit quota, that's one thing. But to break up someone's, marriage, I don't want to get involved.
Break up
So
their marriage. Wow, you're taking if he breaks
Yeah,
up the marriage for that, I
yeah,
think
Lee, you don't know the situation. That could be the straw that breaks the
that could be
camel's
the straw.
back.
maybe.
That could be the straw.
So
Matt Firestone.
if if that VP of that bank is listening, I'm sure you remember this. I sincerely ask for your apology, and I'm sorry. But that's what happened. It took me time to sort of like I can now look back and laugh at it. I was not laughing at it back then. But looking back, the whole thing was sort of just a silly misunderstanding. But Aaron, like you said, there's tons of examples of wacky rejections that we get pretty much every day. So I'd love to hear from you what sort of stands out as like a crazy rejection you've gotten.
All right, so a crazy rejection. I've been cursed out quite a few times. And when that happens, and you just get like hit by a tirade of curse words, you know that you're probably not gonna book a meeting here. And it used to be that if I would get hit by all that negativity, I would just like, clam up and hang up. Uh, but at a certain point, I decided, listen, I'm in this situation. Like, let me get something out of it, and let me try to work here, and I don't know, maybe have a little fun. I think if someone is coming at you with negativity, you got to embrace them with positivity and love. You got to show them the love, and then they just get angrier, and it's funny. Uh, so I called this fellow, and he picked up the phone, and he really realized it was a cold call. He became very distraught and started to, you know, uh, he didn't say the most appreciative words. So obviously I responded with saying, "Wow, I'm sorry you feel that way. Are you okay? Is everything all right? I just gave you a call. Are you okay? Forget about the sale. Is everything all right?" And all I heard was this. You're right. I shouldn't have yelled at you like that. No, it's been a rough day.
Wow.
The commute in here was
Wow.
was terrible. I shouldn't have yelled at you like that. But I'm not interested in your software. I hate when people try selling me things. And
I
I'm like,
love this
I mean,
story.
I can appreciate that. I mean, when someone tries selling me something and I'm in the middle of my day, it also throws me off. So it's fine. But you shouldn't use that kind of language. It's not good for your health. And
You said that? You
he,
said those
yeah, you
words?
shouldn't use that kind of language. It's not good for your health. And to which he responded, you know what? You are right. You are right. You are correct. I will not curse again to salespeople. I will insult you, but I will not curse. So I said, you know what? That's progress. Me and the rest of my profession truly appreciate you. You have a fantastic day. I hope it gets better. And he said,
Wow.
yes, you know what? You too. And that it ended. Now, how many of the times I got cursed out, took that turn? That was one.
That's cool.
The one time. But I think that, you know what? If you approach a situation with a smile, just say, have fun with it. You might not get a meeting, but you'll get a good story out of it.
He got a free therapy session. And Aaron, if that person is listening to the call right now, what would you say to them?
I hope you're doing all right.
Wonderful. What a feel good story. All right, Yaalit, onto you on that note.
I don't feel like I have any crazy I mean, there's for sure things that I'm just forgetting about, but like, first of all,
Yaalit,
I don't really.
can I remind you of one that you've told me in the past and you could decide if you want to tell the story over?
I think it's the
Oh,
one with the recording. Is
I
it
think that's a
that
great
one?
Yeah, do you want to share that, or
But
do you think
that's
it's
not
not
really
appropriate?
rejection. I mean, that was me like kind of rejecting them.
I think
That's
it's
another
appropriate for the
like
converse. No?
it's another crazy story of basically I had passed on a call to my AE when I was an SDR at Vidyard. And anyways, so they had the whole call, and like my AE told me, listen, I don't think they're really interested. It was like a marketing manager, the SDR, something like that. Anyway, so I go and I watch the call, and it was with an Israeli company, and my AE was in Ireland. And I'm watching the call, I'm like, I see that they're like playing on their phone, they're not being respectful. Okay, fine. And then I'm like, but the call was like 30 minutes and this recording's like an hour and a half. Like, what happened here? And I see on Gong, like, they're speaking. Ends up that he left the call, but he didn't click end meeting for all. So these two women stayed on the call and they were just talking tons of shit, just saying like mocking him and how like, yeah, but we'll just tell our manager that it was a good call and who has energy for this, and I can't wait to get drunk tonight and I can't wait to go down and smoke a cigarette. And this is just like literally an hour and a bit of them just talking shit, okay? And I'm just like there watching this like it's like a soap opera. And what else did they do, which was really silly on their part? And I actually know their manager. So I did do something. Maybe some people would think I'm a snitch, but they were sharing their screen of like revenue things and customer information and tons of stuff. And so
Whoa.
yeah, like this went on for a long time. Like me and my husband were sitting there watching this with like popcorn. It was wild. Like one second it's revenue, the next second it's like I'm gonna get drunk tonight. It was really crazy. Um, so I actually reached out to their manager and was like, listen, this is coming from a good place, but like you need to tell your workers to be careful because I don't care about them staying, but they're sharing information. I wouldn't do anything with it,
Did you
but
drop the
maybe
call?
someone.
Did you drop a recording of the call to her?
No, I didn't send her the recording because I also didn't want her to see, right, that they were saying anything about
Wow.
her because they were saying things about her too. Um,
Ooh.
and she was like, thanks for letting me know. By the way, we're hiring. So if you want to join us. And I was like, no, it's okay. But what happened from there is that she must have told them. And I got the nastiest messages from one of them, the SDR, saying, like, you know what, you're the biggest biatch, and I hope you lose your job, and I hope you lose everything, and I hope your life is hell, and who does things like that, and you're crazy. And I was just like, listen, who does things like be smart, you're recording things. I don't care. You can sit here and talk shit for hours if you want, but be smart about it and definitely don't share. Like this is a big company too, right? It's not like a little tiny, even if it was a startup, right? Maybe they have more to even lose, but I still felt good with my decision. And
Good for you.
I did get a little bit scared when she sent that message because I was like, oh shit, is she gonna snitch on me now, like to my company? But I just told my manager and she was like, whatever, who cares?
I think you did the right
So
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was wild though. Like I've never seen something like that. It was just, I was shocked. I was just like, oh my God, like why would you stay on someone like how long? How long could you stay on for? So not really a rejection, but yeah, she definitely got pissed. She got really pissed.
Yeah.
That's
And a
crazy.
good pointer for everyone listening, if you're on a meeting and the meeting is over, leave the meeting.
Yeah, yeah. Unless you're gonna keep
And
talking work and it's your meeting link then or your
you should get
company's,
out, yeah.
but
Yeah.
otherwise, yeah, I would get out.
Yeah, lead on the off chance that they're one of those people are listening to this conversation, what's your message to them?
I don't want to curse too much, but
I think we can have that
yeah, I
edited,
don't have
no?
There
any.
might be kids listening, Yalit.
Yeah, I don't have any. Like, I don't feel bad for them. They're dumb AF, so I don't know. Don't do shit like that. I guess that's my advice.
And if they're
They're
if
both
listen, if
still
they're
there, I think. I think they both still. I
oh
don't want to
really?
check because I don't want her to see that I'm looking at her LinkedIn. I think she blocked me too, one of them. But yeah,
Love
whatever.
Real
SDR
mature,
drama.
guys. Real mature.
If there are any kids listening, then good for you guys for like listening and trying to build yourself up like professionally. This isn't like the type of podcast that most like teenagers are listening to. So thank you for joining, and we'll have to edit out some of what Yali said. Okay, cool. So um, so sort of on that note, when it comes to rejections and when you often have a prospect that says they'll do something, like take a meeting or take a demo, and then they end up not taking it, and then you feel almost like a personal hit because it affects your income, it affects the time you're putting into it that could have been used elsewhere. When people say that prospects don't owe us anything, especially if they agree to a meeting and then they no show, or like 2 minutes before they say sorry I can't make it, would you agree or disagree? So one more time, the question is: once a prospect agrees to a meeting and you put the time aside for it and you have the expectation for it, do they owe you anything to actually show up to the meeting, or is it their time and they don't owe you anything?
No, I think that they owe you something. Like I don't think you need to get mad about it, but I think that they owe you something out of basic respect, right? Just like they're working, you're working. You also have time. You also forget about like the quotas and not having the meeting or whatever. I think it's just basic respect of if you're not interested, which they can change their mind too, right? Even if it's 2 seconds before the meeting, sending a message saying, "Hey, I'm not going to join. It's not relevant," whatever it might be. I really don't like the thing of just no showing and not saying anything or arriving to the meeting 15 minutes late and not saying anything. Like shit happens, stuff comes up, but on a personal level, I think that people should just respect other people's time. I don't think that they owe you anything, but if they're committing to a meeting, then they shouldn't do that if they're not interested, right? Or if that changes, then they should just let you know. You didn't put a gun to their head and tell them they have to get on the meeting. So just be like a normal human being, and just like I would expect from if I need to cancel my nail appointment, I'm not just gonna not show up. I'm gonna call her and say, yo, I can't come, right? So I just say, yeah, people should respect other people's time.
Yeah. I'll say that people should respect other people's time, but I, I'm a very big believer of extreme ownership. And where I tie it into here, it's that if someone no-shows you, yeah, they no-showed. They shouldn't have done that. They should have been more respectful. Maybe they shouldn't have agreed to the meeting in the first place. You built your hopes up. But, I think that it's worth it for the BDR to take that into account and to know your numbers. Me personally, uh, my no-show rate was pretty low, but there was a time when it wasn't that way, and I knew that when about one in 10 meetings would be a no-show, so about 90% show rate. And then when I had a no-show, I was like, oh, okay, taxes.
It's
It happens. It happens. Maybe I know one of the no-shows that I had at Incredibuild was somebody who I had spoken with them. They said, yeah, yeah, let's meet tomorrow. And I asked them tomorrow afternoon is good. It's like, yeah, yeah, tomorrow afternoon. So then I said, okay, okay, your email is XYZ at ABC, right? It's like, yeah, 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 send me the invite there. So I said afternoon, 2 is afternoon. I sent them the invite and they never confirmed it. And then obviously the person no-showed. Now, me personally, I said, you know what? I tried calling them after towards the meeting to confirm. They never picked up. But I said to myself, look, I didn't lock in the time with them. All right. There were a lot of things that I didn't do on my end to confirm the meeting.
Yeah, that
You
was your fault,
know,
I have
yeah,
to say.
that was on me. That's 100% on me. So I walk away from that as saying I should have done better. I've had other cases where it wasn't that it was a no-show. The people came to the meeting, but what they said on the meeting was, we just came to the meeting because Aaron was super tenacious, kept following up with us. We said, you know what, let's just come in here. And when every time I heard that, I was smiling to myself. I was like, yeah, I did a good job on following up, but I knew that the chances of them actually having a business problem, as opposed to them just appreciating, you know, my persistence, yeah, the equation wasn't there.
Is the
And a lot
value
of
there?
times
Interesting.
there wasn't the value. Um, so if you're a BDR and you want people to show up to your meetings, you have to really, sell the value. And if you all of a sudden hit a rut and your interactions with your prospects are not where they should be, you're not getting the replies, you aren't getting the answers that you are looking for, you can always look out at the prospects and say, oh, these prospects, because of their territory, they're this kind of stereotype, or I'm working in the industry that's much harder. You can always look outwards. But I think that it's really good for an SDR's own mental health is to always look inwards and say, what can I be doing better? What can I do to improve? You only have control of yourself, and the external factors, they are what they are. So have enough strength to deal with what you need to deal with. And I truly believe that all the other things will just fall into place.
Interesting. So that actually leads us into the next question. I'm just looking at the time. I think we have time for maybe two more questions or so. Um, you talked about taking ownership, focusing sort of on what you can do as opposed to external factors. A lot of sales teams have sort of reporting that ranks them amongst their colleagues, where you can sort of see, who's the best at closing deals this past month and who has the best, metrics when it comes to different KPIs you're following. That can also, for folks that aren't always number one or at the top, but they still do their job well, that can be disheartening. And as much as it motivates some people, it definitely dismotivates some people as well. At my company, we had one of these where it showed our ranking amongst everyone, and I tended to be pretty high in the top. But I got so much stress and anxiety looking at that thing that I made the conscious decision that, like, I'm going to focus on myself. I'm going to focus on being better compared to like how I was the day before, and I'm not going to look at that thing because it doesn't motivate me. Some people are super motivated by it, and they want to be the number one in the amount of calls they made, the number one in the amount of meetings they book. Do you guys like having some sort of metric, some sort of visible way of seeing where you are compared to the other SDRs? And do you think that it ultimately is a motivating factor, or do you think that everyone should sort of focus on their own world and being better and know what they need to hit in order for them to be successful?
So I'll go first. I think that numbers are great because they don't lie and they're very clear, black and white, binary, 1 0 1 0. And there isn't a lot of room for confusion. I personally know BDRs that are fantastic BDRs, uh, but they're not the best teammates, or they're not like the most naive people. All right, so yeah, they might not be the manager's pet, but they are number one. And for them, you could always be a nicer person, but when it comes to your results, you know where you stand. And on the flip side of that, you could be the funnest gal on the team, the funnest person, but if you aren't hitting your results, come tough times, you're going to be in a tough situation. All right. So it's good to have metrics and have numbers to know where you stand regardless to the team's dynamic, regards to how friendly you are with everyone. Knowing your numbers is important. Knowing where you
I'm
stand
more
within an
referring to
organization
like
is important.
gamifying, like you making it like a you versus the other SDRs. I'm not talking about the
Yeah.
numbers in general. Everyone should know their numbers, but specifically the gamification that some companies do, where they'll have like maybe a certain prize for the number one person, and they have like a board that's constantly up
I
there
think it's
ranking
great.
everyone. That's what I'm
I
referring
think
to.
it's great. Yeah, I think it's great. And I'll give a quick shout out to our good friend Ellie Gilbert Burke, who in the last quarter that I was at Incredibuild really pushed forward blitzes. So once every 2 weeks, we would all sit inside our conference room, not at our desks. We'd have a whiteboard up, and we would tally how many calls we made, how many emails we sent, and at the end of the day, there'd be a prize of sorts. And that really, got the competitive juices going, got us all into a bit of a boiler room mindset of let's go, let's go, let's sell. I also think that, having those metrics and over not even the course of a single day, but over the course of the whole quarter, giving out prizes, saying this person brought in the most pipeline, this person brought in the most meetings, giving recognition to that. It motivates everyone, especially BDRs. That's how I felt. And I truly am a very big supporter of the gamification side of things. I think it provides a lot of value. I think it motivates people. And like I said before, I know wasn't that really related, but it's clear it cuts through the BS. And who better to cut through the BS than Yaalit? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Like, I'm not a competitive person in general at all. I don't care if you win a game, if I win the game. I don't give a shit about that kind of stuff. But I think it's really good to have the numbers exposed because I think, first of all, if you're not in any way motivated by that, then maybe sales isn't the right thing for you. And also, like, I
Interesting.
don't believe in participation trophies. Like, either be number one and get the prize for it, or number two or number three, or you're not getting a prize. Like, you don't deserve the recognition just because you did your job. You're getting paid to do your job. So if you're doing above and beyond and you're hitting your numbers and whatever, yeah, you deserve a prize. But I can tell you specifically, I think there's a few things in it. I think that it can be very motivating. I think that it should be mostly relevant for managers to look at because one thing that I really liked at Vidyard, they had this system that they worked with. I think it was called like Nine Box or something, which basically they rated like employees. So you could be the best, right? You could be selling all the time, you could be booking all the meetings, but if you don't have the other qualities like being a good teammate, teaching back, all that kind of
Interesting.
stuff, you're kind of irrelevant for them. And people literally got
Interesting.
fired for that. Like people that I was like, how could they get fired? Like they're selling. And I found out, right, that it's goes on this system that, okay, if this person's in the company for 7 years and he's selling nonstop, but he's never once taken the time to teach something to one of his teammates, where does he go? He's his own individual, right? He's not looking to teach the rest of the team to grow, to be a teammate, which I really like that, and I think that that's a big thing too, right? If you have someone that's amazing on your team, but they cannot help other people become amazing, then where are they really going with it? And the same thing too, if someone's low on the board and you're constantly low on the board, maybe you should feel some type of way about that because if you're doing your job properly, then you have every chance to be higher on the board too, right? So I think it's really important that people see those numbers. I think it's part of kind of like the culture. And I think that as a team too, right? Like I think it's important in the end of the day, even if you don't have team targets, you're a team whether you like it or not, because you're a team for that company. So on the opposite, I think that it's annoying too if you see someone who's constantly not doing well and they're kind of getting a participation trophy or, like you're there working your ass off, someone else isn't doing their job. So I think it's important to have all these things exposed. I think it's important for employees to know that, yeah, the people that are getting rewarded are the people doing the best, but the people that aren't doing the best are not getting rewarded for it. So I definitely think it's important. I don't believe in participation trophies. I think that the truth should be out there and it's if anything it should just motivate people. If it's bringing you down, then you're focusing on the wrong things because in a normal healthy situation, you should have the exact same opportunities as that person that's number 1 on the board. So use that to motivate you, and hopefully they'll be teaching you back, or you should be asking them what they're doing so that you can be number one next time, or equivalent to them, or very close to them.
Interesting. I never heard of such a structure, but I think it's great that there are metrics outside of purely what you're booking and
I think it's so
how you.
important.
There's so many KPIs outside of just the sales aspect that people underplay. And obviously, the most important thing and what you're brought onto the team for is to, and then it's in the end of the day, pipeline and revenue. But there are so many other factors that are important for the growth of the company, for your professional growth. And I think what you mentioned is like a great way to look at it. Things
For
like, are
sure.
you
I think
spending your time helping
it's a
others? And
huge thing that I found is lacking here in Israel. Like, I found that I've been in so many companies that they'll just take the person who's the top seller and make him the manager. But that person isn't fitting to be a manager. He might know how to do the job himself, but he doesn't know how to teach it back. He's not like team kind of orientated, right? He doesn't know how to manage a team. He doesn't know how to repeat his processes. Which I think is a huge, like, left multiple companies because of that, right? Which is a shame. So I think it's so important because in the end of the day, it's not all about the numbers, right? If you have someone on the team who's a
yep,
bit toxic, or is just, oh, I'm number one, so I don't need to come to meetings, or I don't know, need to do anything, like that rubs off on other people, right? Whether you
Yeah.
like it or not, you're going to feel some type of way about that eventually. So I think it's really important to focus on it as a whole. And maybe someone wants to be, in an IC for the rest of their life. They don't want to strive to be in management. But if you're
hmm
working in sales, unless you're the only person, doing that, most likely you're working with a team of people. So you should be able to, contribute there and help.
And I can add on to what Yali said. I really agree with a lot of things you said. And I'll just say one thing extra is that whether you're an SDR or an AE, it could be that you're the best SDR of the company, you're the best AE at the company, and you're consistently killing it quarter after quarter. And because of that, you start to feel a little invincible. The start to get full little bit of hot air. And if you walk around and say, "Oh, I'm number one. I don't have to do all these things. I don't have to be a good teammate." Um, Watch what happens when all of a sudden times get tough, times, get rough. If you make yourself just a number and you say, "My performance alone justifies everything about me," well, when your performance drops off, you know, you might find yourself on the chopping block because that's all you had to offer the organization. Whereas if, regardless of your performance, you're a good teammate, you look for ways to contribute beyond just being an individual contributor. You look to help your team, you look to add value to the org, like I said, even when things get tough, okay? You still will have value regardless to your performance, and you become a lot more than an individual contributor. you know you're part of the team, and that obviously makes you much more valuable to your organization.
awesome. Thank you. I think I think that definitely resonates as well. So I see we're getting a note here that we have a couple minutes left. So I want to end with a segment that I am calling Dear SDR Manager. And the way this works is a lot of the stress and a lot of the negative feelings not only comes from the people we're calling, but also above us and the managers that are telling us what we need to do to hit our quota. And there could be micromanagers, and there can be a lot of different reasons. And that could be a topic all on its own, that there's a lot of stress and anxiety that comes from internally from our own team and our managers. So I'd like to go around and everyone in sort of like a short sentence or two, what would your message be to the SCR managers of the world when it comes to what we as people who have been or are SDRs could have the most healthy relationship going forward? So I'll start us off just as a way of example, and then I'll pass it on to Aaron and Yaalit, and then we'll close up this episode. So for me, it would be, dear SDR managers, give your SDRs the flexibility to fail without feeling afraid. We need to be able to test things that we aren't sure are going to be successful, but that's how we find out what works the best. So give us the flexibility. Let us know it's okay to try new things, even if they don't work out every single time, because that's how we're going to be our best SDR selves. Aaron, I'll pass it on to you.
All right. Dear SDR managers, all because you are now a manager doesn't mean you're no longer an SDR. Get on the phones, send the
Boom.
emails, prospect with your team. You are an SDR before you are a manager. That's
Love it.
my letter right there.
Oh, you stole mine.
Oh, God.
Um, hmm. Dear SDR manager, don't give out participation trophies. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just recognize the people that are doing their job and the people that aren't. Help them, but you don't need to clap your hands for everyone. Not everyone needs a trophy. Let the people that are shining and doing their best and really, really getting it done, let them get the recognition and make the other ones hungry for it.
Awesome. So I think that's a
That's what I
wrap,
have.
everybody. Thank you for all your insight. Thank you for sharing some personal stories, some war stories from the SDR world. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you all for the next episode. Really quickly, tell people where they could find you, Aaron.
LinkedIn, the SDRs of Israel WhatsApp group, and depending how hungry I am, Burgers Bar.
Yaalit, how about you?
What
Where can
Aaron
people find you?
besides leave out the burgers bar because I don't eat shit meat. But everything that Aaron said, same for me. And I think I kind of left this on a note that I would be the bitchiest SDR manager, but I promise it's the opposite. So I'll just say that.
Awesome. I'm okay with Burgers Bar, but also LinkedIn is the best place to connect with me as well. So thank you, everybody, and see you next time.